Here it comes. I'm live! It's me, the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. So, I wanted to do this earlier. I'm doing it now. At the beginning of my YouTube thing here, I put out a series of 3 videos titled The Afterlife and the World to Come, where I outlined the different ideas, just a few of the different ideas of what constitutes the world to come, the afterlife, life after death. What does that mean according to certain schools of thought or people? And I gave my own take on 1 or 2 ideas there. And this 4th one was meant to be done, but I never did it. And I figured I should do it now because I felt like it. So this one is about creation as a period of 6,000 years. Our sages teach us that creation is, as they said, 2,000 years of chaos, 2,000 years of Torah or enlightenment, and 2,000 years of the days of the Messiah. So 6,000 years. According to the Hebrew calendar, we are now in the year 5,779. Now, this does not mean there are some who think that that's the actual date of planet Earth. I'm not gonna even front, I'm not gonna even get into that. Because why bother? I believe the universe is billions of years old. The 6,000 number does have a lot of significance, as does the trio of 2,000 years, right? Those 2,000 year segments, they were each given a name, right, and a meaning. And there's a lot that you can learn from that. What I'm getting at right now is that is the 7,000. If we compare the 6,000 years to 6 days of the week and the 7,000 to the Sabbath, then 6,000 years of creation only means that we are on the way to that Sabbath, that 7,000th year. There's this idea that God created the Sabbath, or rather that the Sabbath was in God's mind before creation, and that it's all leading towards that. Now, in the story of creation, Adam and Eve are expelled from Eden before they can experience that first primordial Shabbos, right? That first Sabbath. In the story of creation in Genesis, there are 2 separate ones. One where they are expelled from Eden on the afternoon of the 6th day, let's say, and one where the Sabbath occurs. The one where the Sabbath occurs is the first one. The one where the Sabbath never occurs in Eden is the second one. And I usually see the first one as a blueprint and the second one as what actually happened to some degree. And there are those who will disagree with me and who say that there was that first Sabbath, but still it was after eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, so reality changed whether you want to admit it or not. And the whole idea of 6,000 years is that we had this timeline that we were on. And then that time in Eden, and until the time we get back there and partake of the tree of life, that space was stretched to 6,000 years. Now, again, it's not 6,000 years proper. It's more an idea. You can totally say that it's 6,000 years. You can start counting from whenever. It's still a calendar. So I believe, in science and in evolution, but I also believe in creation. So I'm thinking that a lot of Jewish people out there are waiting for the year 6,000 because it's supposed to mark the end of creation as we know it and the moving on to a different sort of reality, which is where this fits in with the whole afterlife and the world to come. It's said that the Sabbath that we experience now, the 7th day of the week, is a taste of the world to come. We say that in the different songs that we sing, in the different it's uttered also in the grace after meals that the Sabbath is a taste of the world to come. So what is this taste of the world to come? It means that that whole time between the 6th day of creation and the 7th day of creation And this was a whole other time. We're not talking about 24-hour day Earth, 12 hours here, 12 hours there, circadian rhythms. We're talking about a whole other kind of reality, and in the physical sense too. Because even though I believe in a progression of evolution, it's only the physical. And I think that before the fall, before the eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, reality was something completely different, really different, not only in how human beings would perceive it, but in its very nature. Now, we're waiting on this seventh thousand, and I know that there are different Kabbalists who say there will also be an eighth, ninth, and 10th thousand to creation. It will only be a kind of shift in phasing. People talk about reincarnation. People talk about making the dead rise, what's called Tchiyat HaMetim, the rise of the dead, which is supposed to, again, harken back to Eden and the fact that we were supposed to partake of the tree of life with our bodies. It's a whole thing, and I won't get into all of it now. But I just want to say that now that we are in 5,779, and there's just a lot there that's really pushing towards the kind of end of days. People thought the end of days was coming at all kinds of different points in history, and I can't help but connect this to the times of World War II and the Holocaust and other Holocausts where people thought that's it. This is like the end of days. It has to be. How much more suffering can a human being take? Things of that nature, things of like large magnitudes which affected us and the world and continue to affect the world. So this end of days, people see it in all kinds of ways. I think that getting to that seventh thousand, that Sabbath of years of creation, is something very significant, and I feel that we are edging closer to it on the physical level. Things like having the internet and the web, right? Everyone is connected in a lot of ways, whether it's to the power grid or to the online, virtual digital realities. There's a lot there because I think that the physical and the spiritual mirror one another. So I see a lot of interwebs going on in this world, and I can only fathom a little bit of what's going on in the higher realms, if you will, the spiritual worlds, where all the different divine emanations creating relationships and connecting, creating new possibilities. And it all comes back to us. So now that we are in these end of days, if you will, and you can take that, I believe a person should always consider themselves to be in some end of days or another, because it's your life, you're going to die, you never know when or how it's going to happen. How they say, live as if it's your last day, in certain cases, people would say that. So I'm pretty much saying that differently, but the idea of end of days has this apocalyptic kind of wrath of God connotation to it, or maybe something like an inevitability, which this does have. 6,000 years of creation, 2,000 chaos, 2,000 Torah, 2,000 days of the Messiah. I could think of breaking it down now a little bit further as I see it, but since I have nothing really prepared to say about it, I fear I'm just going to ramble. What I want to say here is that whole the world to come that people are waiting for, or the thoughts they have regarding it that I outlined in previous videos, it's something that's coming towards us. That's why it's the world to come. It's the world that is to come before us, and it is the world that is coming towards us. It's a different way of looking at the same kind of thing because we are the ones who create it. And our sages teach us in the Mishnah that they say 1 hour of time in the world to come is worth all of this world, and 1 hour of good deeds and repentance and returning in this world is better and greater than all of the world to come. There's the idea that people always bank on the future, or people always. Sometimes people bank on the future, always thinking about the future. Sometimes people would do good deeds and perform commandments and tasks for the sake of the future and of reaping the rewards. And I'm not knocking that. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're told, by your religion or way of life that if you do good, you will get rewarded and you want to do so, that's great. Then go for the reward, at least at first. It's You're still doing good. So I forgot where I was going with this. It's a little late. Let me think for a second. I was thinking about the 2000 years. I was thinking about um, punishment. Right. So end of days has this connotation to it. But there's also the idea of living each day as if it's the last. So that's two things. It's living like it's the last day, but it's living, meaning taking advantage of your time. So even if you do it for reasons which are just for the future. Oh, right, I brought that Mishnah from, okay, the 1 hour here and there. So 1 hour of good deeds and repentance and returning in this world is greater than all of the world to come, because here you are in this body, in this vessel, with this struggle, with your own inclinations and your material kind of existence that draws you down, and the ego, which is why when you can step aside from the negativity and the suffering, and the bad things and the negative things and the ego, and devote yourself to kindness and doing good in this world, if only for an hour. That hour of you overcoming, yourself, of you doing good things, that is an amazing thing that should not be taken lightly. Even if there is a world to come, there is this world. And an hour in that world is seemingly worth, I haven't experienced it yet. I have experienced hours, thank God, of kindness and goodness, whether I did it or others were doing it to me. I have experienced that, and I know how blissful and wonderful that is, and I know what it means to live in the moment. In a way, I really do. And the world to come, where an hour there is worth all of this life, all of this material creation. I don't know what that's like, but supposedly it's something that's very disconnected from what I know now. So if you want, I'll put the link down in the description to the three other parts, the links to the three other parts. If you're interested in learning more about this, because this is the fourth in the series, then check those out. Maybe I'll put them in cards up there. And on Friday, I will hopefully be back for the weekly Torah portion, which is loaded and packed. And hey, you know what? I've got 86 subscribers, which is not a little for me. I had a few other YouTube channels, different ones, in the past, and I never, I think, went past 50 something. So this is cool. I'm happy with my 86 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching, for subscribing, for those of you who are commenting. And if you're not, if you want to engage, I'm open to it. So let's go for it. And I'll see you Friday. Let's have a good one. God bless.